What's going on, people? It's your man Jonah Sanders, and we're back with another documentary. This documentary will be unique because, as a black man in America, I'm considered a nerd for some odd reason. But the thing about it, what's funny is, in cultural terms, it's called a blerd. So, with the help of some friends and fellow blerds, I put this documentary together so everyone could give their viewpoint on exactly what a blerd is to them. Because at the end of the day, I really don't even know what the fuck it is. But as part of this community, one who loves games, one who loves comics, one who loves just being around black intellectuals, let's move forward and see what happens. All love.
World is your favorite neighborhood ink slinger slinging ink from his fingers, Mr. Soul's ink pen. And I am about to give you all a little spiel. I was asked what it means to be a blerd. Yep, a black nerd. Well, in the age that I come from, it wasn't popular to be a nerd. You got picked on, messed with. You got people snatched your comics and fucked with your cards and shit. Everybody liked the same shit. They just secretly couldn't. Now it's just everywhere. You see cosplayers. You see freaking Comic Con, and everybody, all walks of life, show up to it. I still have yet to be at one, but I'm gonna go. I am a fan of stuff from the 80s, 90s, Voltron, Transformers, G.I. Joe. I liked stuff like, what was that guy's name? Max something. I can't remember. But anyway, I say that to say this. Being in this group, it's not even a group, it's more of a society. I feel safe. Because nobody, we debate, but we debate about, nonsensical stuff like Vegeta is stronger than Goku. You can't tell me different. Everybody gonna be like, oh, but Goku. Yeah, y'all tripping. Like, yeah, Goku cool and everything, but nah. He'll never be stronger than Vegeta. I think Vegeta holds himself back, but again, we get to have these healthy debates and shit, and then after we have the debate, it's over and we're all friends again, and it's okay. It's okay to be different. I'm in a place with like-minded people, and it's okay to be different. You know what I'm saying? I get to talk about shit that I love, like I said, Transformers. I get to talk about that stuff. I get to talk about how Naruto is too goddamn long to be trying to watch. Fuck out of here with that shit. But I get to be okay, with being who I am. I'm unapologetically me, especially now that I'm a poet. I've embraced being a poet for a while now, but yeah. So I could keep talking. I keep going about what it means to me, but in all honesty, there's really nothing else I could say, because hell, it's been said already. There's a freaking group of black nerds united under the same banner of cartoons and craziness and Kamehameha blasts and freaking arm cannons and Autobots roll out and Decepticons attack and Repet Sa for the Galra Empire, and I'm like, the excitement that I get when I go to that page on Facebook, and just I've seen people walk around my city. I live in Muskogee, Oklahoma. I seen somebody walk around and he had a Blerd hoodie, and I didn't get a chance to walk up and talk to him because I was at work. But man, I can just imagine the conversation we would have had, and I haven't seen him since. But I'm pretty sure my city's small. I'll see him somewhere. But point is, what it means to be a blerd is simply this: embrace who the fuck you are, love who you are, love that you are accepted, and love that you are loved, regardless of what you may think. In my humble opinion, Megatron is the Nat Turner of the Transformers universe. Magneto was right. The Galra Empire ain't that bad. I mean, it could be. Star Wars, I mean, that's just a series about a bunch of illegitimate kids that got special abilities. I mean, you know, don't nobody know who their daddy is until they find out and they gotta fight him and cut his arm off. But you know, whatever. Anyway, that's my spiel, man. This has been your friendly neighborhood ink slinger, slinging ink from his fingers, Mr. Soul's ink pen, and proud to be a blerd.
What does it mean to be a blerd? A black nerd? It's like taking the African American community, our culture that we grew up in, and taking this universe, Marvel, DC, anime, Star Wars, D&D, gamers, you know, readers, whatever it is, and putting them together and coming out with something wonderful. I remember being younger. I'm older now. I remember being younger, and I remember my comic books being stolen in my locker, and I found them in the dumpster. It wasn't always popular. It always wasn't fun. I was told this is for white kids. It's for white kids, man. We don't do this. Well, I'm not gangster. I'm not hood. I still got Pokemon cards. So, I don't have a thug bone in my body. I'm just crazy. Don't try me. But, no. No, I was not that kid that did Naruto run down the hallway, though. I didn't do that. But I was watching Naruto. I didn't do the run, but I was watching it. And so now being older and being a blerd, I love the fact that that phrase, that term is being used, blerd, because there is a group in nerd culture that is very underrepresented. It's us, you know. Most of the other cultures are represented. Us not so much. You know, it's kind of like, you know, we would be there, like you could tell the character was black, but they like green or they're blue or purple or whatever color it is, man. They never paint them black. And now in 2023, the rise of blerd culture is finally being noticed. And I love it. I love it, man. This is great. It's it's freeing. I get to nerd out sometimes and talk with people. Now, I'm just in a text thread now talking about Spider-Verse. And then talking about the Hellfire Gala release coming out soon. And talking about a whole bunch of other Marvel stuff. But I also have my DC friends, and then I got my anime friends, and then I got my Star Wars friends. You got your WWE friends. You got your whatever it is that you're nerdy for, bro. Yeah, you a blerd. Welcome. Welcome, man. I love this community. I love being able to debate and talk and be able to be disagree with people without being disagreeable. And just have some lighthearted fun. I love going to cons and seeing so many of us cosplaying, and dressing up in the characters and just having a great time, man. I remember the second time I cosplayed when I moved up here. I did a Miles Morales cosplay, and I did it a little differently. I put my own spin on it, and to see as many other black people, blerds, there with me, because I was scared. I thought it was going to be like maybe 2 other black people there. Man, it was everybody. It was beautiful. Man, all people from all kinds of backgrounds and different, ethnic backgrounds and races, and it was just great. So yeah, I love being a Blerd, man. Like I love running into other black people, other Blerds, and we make that eye contact. Y'all know what the eye contact is. We make that eye contact and just be like, yeah, we in here. Yeah, man. I'm such a Blerd, man. Look. This is just the tip of the ice. This is not even the tip of the iceberg. This is the tip of the iceberg. I ain't even get started yet. There are a bunch of comic books down here in this bookshelf, man. It's ridiculous. But yeah, being a Blerd, it's great. It's wonderful. And welcome.
This is Jack Sharpe Jr. One of the early Blerds from back in the day. I'm an old superhero fan. I grew up with Batman, Spider-Man, Shazam. When I fell in love with Star Trek, I was a Mr. Spock fan. I liked him better than all of them, better than Captain Kirk and all of those. I've always had that interest in him, and to grow up and see the Star Wars franchise, the MCU and DC comics come up, it's pretty remarkable to see the progress. I also enjoyed the first Black Panther movie. I had some issues with the second, but the first one, the young man Coogler put a lot of good work in there. So I'm a teacher, and we push a lot of different things. Try to advise my young folks to be creative, to not be just tied to the computer, but be creative in what they write, what they do. In high school, I graduated number 7 in my class. With a 3.8. Went to North Carolina A&T State University, got a history degree. In Virginia State got one, another history degree, a master's. And I have been working with troubled young people all this time, using all the things that I learned being a Blerd to give them a different perspective on things. So that's the work that I do. So that's my introduction. So you all have a great day. Peace.
It's so hard to describe what being a Blerd means because it's so complex. As you go through life, the way that being a Blerd means to you, or what it means to you, and the ways in which it impacts your life just changes as you get older, as you go through life experiences. When I was younger, my dad was a Trekkie, and one of my earliest memories is listening to the TNG great fanfare on the screen. And I just remember a bald white man on the screen. If you asked me to recall any episode from my childhood, I couldn't. But I remember the music. I remember Patrick Stewart. And that's all I really remembered. And, even as a kid, I wasn't into dolls like regular kids. What do I do with it? I didn't know what to do with the doll. So my dad had a tendency to get me computers. One year for Christmas, he got me a Game Boy. And one of the first games I played on Game Boy Color was The Legend of Zelda. And, it's funny because I never finished it. I don't know what happened to it. And then years later, I finally figured out what the name of it was. And I was like, oh, my God. And I bought it right away and I started playing it. And these memories were so vivid that came up from me gaming when I was younger. And I speak about it more as a life experience than I do as an actual concept, because really Blerd is about who you are and what you've consumed and what helped you get through life. And for me, I had ADHD. And so if I couldn't read a book, my next best thing was a game. And so I'd say in my younger life, I was more of a gamer. I played a lot of video games. I had game systems, the way that most girls at that time didn't have game systems. It's changed so much since then because so many Blerds have had children and have raised their children. So I had game systems when I was growing up. And it wasn't until the game systems, I didn't have I had time for game systems, but I couldn't justify playing them. So my ADHD hyper focus had to focus on something else. So I focused on sci-fi. And I think one of the first sci-fi and fantasy. And one of the first sci-fi fantasies that I was really into was actually Harry Potter. But I wasn't into it I always had to be contrary to who everybody else likes. So my thing was always the secondary characters and learning more about secondary characters. And I was heavily into fandom because being a Blerd to me is being heavily into the fandom. That's why people had a tendency to make it seem like it was a negative thing, because they couldn't understand why anyone would be interested in fictional characters that don't exist to the extent of how a lot of Blerds are. But that was my thing. Harry Potter was my fantasy. And then one day, a good friend of mine, because I was interested in Star Trek, but I hadn't really watched too much of it. All I had was the memory from my dad. And then suddenly this person downloaded every single episode of Star Trek all the way through to Enterprise and gave it to me. So I sat and watched all episodes of Star Trek. And then when I was pregnant with my daughter and I had downtime, once again, I sat and actually watched the Star Trek that I missed. So I became a huge Trekkie. I tried Star Wars. My mom did take us to see Star Wars when I was younger, but I wasn't into it as much as I was into Star Trek. Not quite sure why, because she took us to see a few of the movies in the 90s, like 2 or 3 times at what they used to call the dollar show. You don't have anything like that now. Back in the day, but it just never really captured my imagination. But also when I think about Blerds, there just seems to be a tendency of Blerds who are neurodivergent. I didn't find out until I was in my 20s that I had ADHD. And it explained a lot about how I consumed the media and why I would hyperfix on certain things that I really enjoyed. So, like I said, it's a loaded question because it's so intertwined with my life and my memories and what I've been through and who I am. But one thing I can say is that it's who I am. It's my community. It's the community of people that I absolutely love. And I'm happy that we have social media and other forms of communicating with each other where it's accessible enough for us to interact with Blerds all over the world. So I've met Blerds from everywhere, and it's amazing, and I love it. And even at my job, the background of my job is the famous Gorn picture with Captain Kirk. And it's the picture where the Gorn is trying to throw the rock at him and Captain Kirk is on the ground. So that's the background of my team screen at work. And I had a random Blerd. He came up and he was just like, "Is that the original Star Trek? Did you actually put that as your background?" And I said, "Yeah." We're everywhere. And I love it. And I know back in the day, like when my father was growing up in the 70s and he was a huge comic book person, it wasn't as accepted as it is now. We went from my dad being bullied in Southside Chicago in the 70s because he loved comic books to I was walking down the street in Atlanta with my daughter the other day and they were having MomoCon, and seeing groups of Blerds cosplaying, walking together and just being their best selves. It almost brought a tear to my eye. honestly. And I didn't want to seem like I was weird and running up to them and being like, oh my God, I'm so happy that the Blerds are cosplaying. So I left them alone. But to go from that to that is beautiful. And it makes being a Blerd worth any hardship that came with it. And I'm happy to be a part of the community, and I'm happy to be a fellow Blerd myself.
Hi. Okay, so the question was, what does it mean to be a Blerd? Well, today it means being exhausted from trying to do both Tina and Lemmy proud really late at night at a club, playing really loud music that most people with appropriate or a blessed amount of melanin would not really appreciate. But I had a hell of a good time, and so did the people that came with me, all my good friends. I'm a little tired and wearing last night's makeup, but that's part of Blerd life too. Making things work, depending on what you get. Sometimes it means being the only one that looks like you in the room. Sometimes it means watching your quiet favorites become very popular and then learning to love the fact that there's accessibility. Sometimes being a Blerd means having to be vocal in a room where you really would rather just be quiet and move on. Because you know what, there's a lot of us, and there always have been. We always have to be who we are, us Blerds. We don't really have a choice, even if that means we get a punch in the face or somebody pulling your hair to find out if it's real or not. Being a Blerd means being the only black kid at the Rage show when they first started, or in the dark rooms in DC, the 930 Club, means trying to not to get kicked in the face at the pit. In the pit during the Dead Kennedy show, means all those things. Means writing stories that you hope people will read, trying to figure out how the hell you're supposed to find us, because we're kind of solitary creatures. For a minor subgroup of a subgroup, we're awful hard to get in a room together. I think the internet's made a huge difference for that. You find yourself, at least digitally, and you find out about things like BlerdCon, which God bless you guys who did that. I still haven't made it there. I still want to, but God bless you for just pulling it together. I was the only black kid at the Brad Brain show many times, and once again avoided getting kicked in the face and put a few elbows. So for those of you who have sinus problems, you shouldn't have gotten that close. I'm just saying. Being a Blerd means being you and dealing with all the stuff that comes with, and having your family look at you funny where you wear the Rammstein t-shirt. Who cares? It means having to explain something to your baby cousins that come to visit. Yeah, no, this is still cool. No, it's cool. And then watching them get excited when they figure out who it is and liking it secretly. And when they come to visit for the holidays, you listen in your room real quiet. Yeah, that's a Blerd too. It means turning them on to anime also. A lot of manga under the boards, Being a Blerd means getting the best out of everything. That's what it is.
So people, now you have it, from our family, the Blerd family, to your family. We are a collective. We are more than just black nerds. We are intellectuals. We are a family. Where are you? Thank you.